everyone, and welcome to a broadcast to be named later. I'm your host, Zach Simon. Now, full disclosure up front, this specific show today is a preview show. This is about who's going to be Cy Young, who's going to be Rookie of the Year, who's going to be MVP. It's also going to talk about the playoff predictions for each league. So, let's just dive right into it. Before I do, though, I want to mention a couple housekeeping things. My website is now live. It's btbnl.com, btbnl, broadcast to be named later.com. It's just btbnl. If you do search hotstovecast.com, I will come up. I'm transferring that brand over and everything right now. I actually think I had to make a new Facebook page. So hit up. I'll get to all the socials in a moment, but yeah, I want you to please continue to follow along. Thank you so much for doing so. And let's just get into it. So again, it's been about how many months has it been? It feels like a while. 1, 2, 3. It's been like 7. Literally 7 months since I did a show. So a little rusty, but let's just get into it then. All right, let's start off with the Rookie of the Year for the American League. This is like the biggest layup of all time. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the best prospect in baseball right now. He is barring the catastrophic, an injury. He will win that award. Honorable mention, Eloy Jimenez. I've got and on my blog, which I've newly created, I'm going to post some up and coming prospects that you might not have heard about. And there's one specifically for this category that I can't wait to tell you about. We'll post an article about him this week. National League. Been hyping this guy up for quite some time now. I had his high school baseball coach on my third show. I had him on the Hot Stove Cast 103. That man's name is Dennis Braun, and the player I'm talking about is Pete Alonso. I think Pete Alonso is going to come up to the big leagues. He's going to find a way to hit 285 with some strikeouts and hit for a lot of power, a lot of doubles, a lot of homers. Not like set the world on fire homers and doubles, to the point where he's among the leaders. But for a rookie, for somebody in his position, first time around, to do what he'll likely do going forward, will be impressive enough to get him National League Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. MVP time. So, part of me thinks I should save this until after I tell you about my standings, but you'll get a good idea of it anyway. So let's just do it. American League MVP Mookie Betts. Now I know that you Trout people out there are like, wait a minute, this guy's better. Well, I think the Red Sox are gonna do something similar to what they did last year. Are they gonna win 115,000 games? Probably not. But are they gonna definitely set the pace? It's very possible. Now, to that point, the American League East actually is an extremely challenging division amongst 3 teams. Those being the Yankees, Rays, and Red Sox, of course. But I think that when the Red Sox ultimately win that division, spoiler alert, for that portion of the show, I think that Mookie Betts is the guy. Okay, moving on. And National League. When you look at the NL West, it's like, man, what are they really? What's really going to come out of there? I mean, the Dodgers are just far and away the best team there. And if this guy has a full year healthy, I think Corey Seager is really going to find a way to make his mark on this league. He could hit 28, 30 homers, hit 305, 310, do 100 and 100, 15 steals if you're into that. But really, I think he'll just be like kind of that stalwart, staple kind of guy, just like the backbone of that team. And watch out for Corey Seager. Now, Cy Young, okay? Let's keep with the National League this time around. Max Scherzer. I think Max Scherzer will just continue his dominance. He's so consistent, so consistently great. Honorable mention German Marquez. I really couldn't pull the trigger on that, but I was tempted. Same thing. Honorable mention Trevor Bauer for the American League Cy Young. Again, just not quite ready to pull the trigger on that, but I'm sure somebody who could definitely fight his way into the picture for at least part of it, if not through stretches. A lot of times with these guys, they just need to put it all together for 162 games. Now, that's a lot to ask for some people, but for a guy like Garrett Cole, it's not. And in seasons not being last year, he had some good years in Pittsburgh, but he had like a 4-year lull, maybe 3 or 4 years. Last year, he was exceptional. I think his second year with the Astros is really going to be a fantastic one. I think he'll find a way to win the AL Cy Young, taking advantage of knowing what to expect as far as preparations go with the Astros, and the Astros are notorious for being just one of the very best teams, if not the best team, as far as bringing in veterans and just squeezing, for the lack of a better term, squeezing them as much out of them as they possibly can. Garrett Cole's an exceptional strike thrower, exceptional at getting swings and misses. So I expect him to thrive this year. Let's keep it with the American League now, moving on to playoff predictions. Because I think the National League is actually extremely, I don't want to say complicated, but it's there's a lot of things that could happen. It took me, in short, it took me much longer to make my National League playoff picture than it did my American League picture. Piggyback off the Astros, I think the Astros will take the 1 seed. They'll get 100 wins this year. Really not a whole lot of competition in that American League West. And the Astros have just been doing it for so long. It must be it must be getting somewhat old at this point. But really, they're just a really great team. I think they'll take the 1 seed. The Indians in the Central, only because this is easier. I think they'll win about 94, 96 games. They'll take the 3rd seed. Now, there's 3 playoff spots left. I'm giving them all to the American League East. The only team I even thought about including in the mix was the Twins for a wild card, but really, I don't see it. I just don't see it. And it takes time. I know baseball is an individual sport of sorts, minus fielding, but it takes time for teams to gel, the chemistry, for guys to get comfortable in situations. The Twins have a ton of turnover, so I can't just quite go there yet. Now, I already told you the Red Sox would have a successful season. I think they win the division, and with 96 wins, they'll be the 2nd seed in the American League. Team to watch out for this season, the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm as excited about the Tampa Bay Rays, or as possibly excited. I'm a Phillies fan. I grew up in the area. I'm as excited about the Tampa Bay Rays, or just barely nearly excited about the Rays as I am the Phillies. But I'll get to the Phillies in a bit. Let's stay focused on the American League. The Rays are great. I think the Rays are going to take the 2nd wild card, and the Yankees, with the best bullpen of all time, will take the 1st wild card slot. All right, let's get to the playoff picture. That means it is Houston versus Tampa Bay, Boston versus Cleveland. I've got Houston in 4 versus Tampa Bay. Houston's just done it before. They're too good. They're studied. They'll make a midseason move. I think Tampa Bay is super, super formidable, but I just don't see it just yet. Boston versus Cleveland in the other series. I think Boston takes it in 4. Boston, just a lot to handle, and they might just, I think they'll just overwhelm Cleveland. They have so much. Boston is really great. They've got the combo of analytics and payroll, and when you have that going, you are going to have a lot of great seasons. So that means for the American League Championship, it's Houston versus Boston. This one took a lot for me to decide. Something told me that the Astros were going to, I don't want to use the word crumble. I'm not using the word crumble, okay? But I think the Astros will struggle to maintain their health, similar to how they did last year, or how they did not, rather, last year. And that'll create an opportunity for the Red Sox, who are an extremely deep and talented and young team, really, to beat the Astros in 6. So the Red Sox represent the American League in my playoff picture. Let's talk about the National League, and I'll go from less complicated to most complicated. Least complicated, the National League West. I think, again, I think I said this before. I'll say it again. I think the Dodgers are pretty much just going to run away with that division. They have so much talent. They have an above-average bullpen. They have a lot of subs, if you will, for starting pitching that is, on their best days, really great. They have some really talented starting pitchers. Now, similar to the Astros, I think they're going to have some problems staying healthy. That's just kind of a constant thing with them. But they're so savvy, they'll find ways to kind of fight through that and ultimately come out with the number 1 record in the National League, in my opinion. Secondly, for the NL, I was really torn with the Central and the East, because everybody's like, oh man, the NL East. Oh man, oh my gosh, the NL East. But really, the NL Central is pretty dang close too. I mean, you got a team like the Reds, who's really just turned things around as far as personnel goes. But I just don't see them pulling it off. I just don't. So I have them in 4th. St. Louis, where's your starting pitching? Okay, I don't know where it is. So I put them in 3rd. And this might surprise you. I think the youth of the Cubs is going to help them toward a toward a wild card appearance. And the Brewers, who have the lowest payroll, they have a low payroll. It's 16th in MLB. They have time to make a move, whether it's now or midseason. Kimbrel or Keuchel or both would blow up the National League if they found a way to get to them. Again, they have the 16th highest payroll. I see this team. This team is, as far as I'm concerned, is the most analytically savvy in the NL Central. And I see them making a move or two midseason. I'm not sure if they have the prospects within to really make it happen. I know everyone talks about Keston Hiura, but that guy, he's good, but he swings and misses a lot. He needs a little bit more time. He could maybe come up in September and get a taste. But no, I don't think he'll contribute this year. But the talent of the Brewers, whether it's the bullpen or the bats, is really special. So I took them first. And part of the reason I took the Cubs second in that division is because I think their starting pitching, while definitely the older side, is certainly superior to the other teams in the division. So the Cubs will make the playoffs. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Obviously, we'll go in the NL East. Obviously, the Marlins are fifth. I'll tell you what, speaking of starting pitching, I don't see it with the Braves. The Braves had a great year last year. Nick Markakis had a little bit of a lucky year. I feel strongly about that. They brought in Donaldson, which is nice. If he has a great year, watch out for the Braves. They could certainly be a wild card contender. But the problem with the Braves, in my opinion, is their starting pitching. Seriously, Atlanta, where is your starting pitching? Now, they have no Foltynewicz due to injury, no Toussaint, no Soroka due to injury. I think, by the way, Soroka is an exceptional pitcher. I think this guy has potential to be a top 5 pitcher in the division for many years to come. Excuse me. But it's my understanding that he will not play this season. So, I put the Braves fourth. Now, here is where it gets super interesting. I looked at the Nationals lineup and said to myself, what happened? I don't see it. I'm sorry. Unless Zimmerman finds that fountain of youth again for the entire season, I don't see the Nationals competing with the likes of the Mets and the Phillies in this division. The Mets are very talented offensively. They are more talented with their starting pitching, and their bullpen's pretty good. They obviously have Edwin Diaz closing. So I took the Mets second in this division, and they will also earn a wild card. Now, I know that's going to flip some people upside down. Like, what are you talking about? But I'll tell you what, Zach Wheeler has the potential to be as good as DeGrom or Syndergaard. No, really. And I like the youth in that team. I like McNeil as well as Alonso. They brought Conforto. I'm not as high on him as other people are, but I think he's a strong contributor, a second year off of that shoulder injury. And the guy I'm really high on is Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Nimmo is a really talented, versatile bat. So when you combine those guys with the likes of Cano, Lowry, Wilson Ramos, who, man, if he can stay healthy for a whole year, he could have one of the best seasons statistically for a catcher ever. But that's such a high ask at this point for him. But anyway, my point is, I think the Mets will take the 2 seed, and the Phillies are firing, man. People aren't giving Nick Pivetta enough credit. He will be the second best player in this rotation behind Aaron Nola, who's a stud. No questions asked. And I'm actually a little more optimistic about Arrieta coming off a knee injury than others. It could have been hampering him for a long time. So I want to be cautiously optimistic about him, but I certainly have some optimism there. So let's go to the NL playoff picture in that case. The Dodgers have the 1 seed against the I chose the Mets over the Cubs in the wild card round. So the Mets versus the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers beat the Mets in 4 games in that first series. Excuse me. Phillies draw the Brewers. I think the Phillies handle a tough opponent in the Brewers in 5 games. Yeah, I just think that's a heavyweight battle, no doubt. 2 great offenses, 2 really pretty similar teams, honestly. Very similar teams. I think the Phillies bullpen will ultimately be the difference there. Now you get Dodgers Phillies in the NLCS. I chose the Phillies in 7. Why did I do that? Like I said, I don't think the Dodgers starting pitching will find a way to stay healthy, or if they do, they won't be as effective because they'll be playing through some sort of injury toward the end of the season. It's just the track record of that. It's there. And their line, they have some inconsistency with injury with their guys in the lineup. The only real consistency the Phillies have as far as injuries go is Bryce Harper. And they have a pipeline of guys. If an outfielder gets hurt for the Phillies, this guy, Adam Hazley, is really talented. I'm going to be writing about him very soon. I think Adam Hazley is one of the best prospects in baseball. And yeah, so I'm excited for what the Phillies are doing. I think they will face the Red Sox in the World Series, and they unfortunately will lose in 7 games to the Boston Red Sox. So the Red Sox will beat the Phillies in 7 over the Phillies. I don't know who will have home field advantage. I really don't. If I could tell you, I would. But I think the Red Sox will take care of business. So, back to housekeeping stuff. Like my page on Facebook, please, at Broadcast TBNL, okay? Broadcast to be named letter. Broadcast TBNL. Visit my website, btbnl.com. Follow me on Instagram, Broadcast to be named later. And thank you so much for listening. This show is going to have a lot of interesting twists and turns. Nothing like deceptive, but just like different stuff. I'm going to get unique perspectives from all over the place, focused on a subject. So for one example, I could be interviewing I don't know. The point is, I'll keep it focused on teams. Like if I have a Brewers prospect guest on the show, I'll try to get an interesting story or a reporter to come or talk about something with a reporter or whatever. A coach, administrator, executive, etc. About the Brewers, or just get. I want to unlock perspectives on this show that people don't really get anywhere else. On top of that, I'm going to be writing a lot on my blog at blog TBNL. That's on my website at btbnl.com. Check out my first ever piece on Rhys Hoskins and how I think he's poised for a great year, based on his selectivity. On top of that, this show will also, of course, have prospect interviews. It's called a broadcast to be named later because in baseball, a player to be named later is the prospect announced in a trade. And I want to thank all the prospects and all the PR personnel and all the media relations people who helped me facilitate this show last year and help me get it off the ground. And I'm so grateful for them. And I'm also grateful for the prospects as well, for their time and to talk about weird and interesting conversation. And again, check out. There's going to be a lot of new stuff coming up. There's a good chance I have to. No, I don't want to waste your time with that. But my point is, visit my YouTube page. All the info is on my website at btbnl.com. And thank you so much for listening. So much more with this show to come later in the future. But again, I really appreciate you listening. Have a great rest of your week.